Here I am at a sacred Buddhist space, back in the state where I was born and raised, Colorado. I have come and gone to the place of my birth over the years. I moved to the right side of America in Connecticut for high school in 1990, where I caught Lyme disease at 19, which has been destroying my life since my diagnosis, making me feel like I've been in suspended animation for what will now be officially 30 years this coming August. While in Connecticut, conspiracy theorists in the Lyme community tried to convince us Lyme was manufactured in a lab as a weapon by the military-industrial complex. Another guy at a support group claimed it was Satan infecting our bodies. Because of my sickened state, I feel cursed, disconnected from life, love, self-worth, and confidence, making me constantly second-guess everything about myself. It has made me feel like I never belonged in Connecticut as my home, or anywhere for that matter, and have spent years fighting a disease that continues to get worse each year and makes me wonder where it is I really do belong. In the very beginning of this illness, doctors told me spirochete invaders cloaked their malice and infiltrated my healthy tissues, turning my body's immune system against itself in my body's own civil war. Nothing the doctors gave me to treat it did anything to cure or make me feel better. They just warned me from the beginning that if I didn't beat it, the disease would eventually eat up my brain and kill me, which is what it feels like it's close to doing. While all this was taking place, I couldn't help but observe something similar play out on the macro scale, infecting our national body. Like spirochetes, I saw religious extremists cloak their malice, seeking to infiltrate our healthy institutions, trying to turn us against each other in a new civil war. 4 years after Trump came into power, I was nearing the breaking point and sought a last-ditch healing journey to the progressive left side of us in California in search of healing. Unfortunately, because medical science had nothing to offer me for a cure that worked, I had to look for alternatives, but couldn't find anything. And the avatars or shaman I wanted to believe were real, who I was looking to find so they could help me heal, seemed to either not exist or be well hidden from view. I spent 2020 during the pandemic in San Diego, watching in dismay as millions of people all over Earth were coming down with COVID long-haul symptoms that sound almost identical to chronic Lyme disease. The next 2 years, I accomplished zero healing. It's hard to find a cure for a disease you've had most of your life, when millions of people are coming down with a mystery illness that takes priority. I had to leave California in 2023, feeling like a complete failure as my nightmare just keeps getting worse. My brain and body feel like they're getting eaten alive, and I spend most of my days feeling like a Lyme zombie, with the worst symptoms hitting me at night, where thoughts of my demise are difficult to overcome with any hope I can turn things around. I feel like half a person, unable to work, while disappointing friends, family, and myself, feeling like people I love are either angry or majorly disappointed with me because of a nearly intolerable situation which I can't figure out how to fix. Sometimes this manifests as being completely ignored by the very family I've loved and wanted to be closest to in this life. It's as if I'm slowly being erased without a single trace of any meaningful connection that I've always tried to find. Most of the time, I feel so uncomfortable inside my body, I don't know what to do with myself. All I can do is continue as I have, traveling through time in suspended animation, waiting for something that never comes, and seeking out that which has always eluded me, healing. Most people my age have built families, careers, and wealth that will last generations to come. I can accomplish none of these things, and I'm still stuck, not having the slightest idea what I have to do to beat this before it beats me. In what became my third failure trying to move to California since getting Lyme, I had to leave the left coast and my healing journey because I failed to connect with the genius side of us to cure my disease. My dreams have continually been crushed by the reality of a disease that is only getting worse, stealing any power I have to turn my dreams into reality. So after moving back to Connecticut in 2023, unable to work for anyone other than my family, I found myself continuing to deteriorate and nowhere closer to defeating the bacteria doctors told me passed my blood-brain barrier. Without a breakthrough soon, I feel like my time is running out. At the beginning of 2024, I'm back close to the center of America in the state of my birth, while it feels like I'm at a dead end. And if Christian extremists like spirochetes take over the central nervous system of our government in the 2024 election, it feels like America could be nearing its end. In the 29 years of my life since Lyme, I have blindly searched the left and right side of us for a cure, while moving everywhere in between, without ever feeling like I fit or belong anywhere in this land of a split mind, multiple personality, bipolar us. Left versus right for the heart and soul of a nation, where both sides have struggled to make this failing marriage of a more perfect union work that in 2026 will stand at 250 years. It's failing because the level of extremism and political animosity growing between the two sides, leading to civil war levels of hate. One party, the GOP, is preparing to nominate a presidential candidate that wants to convince you our greatest enemy is within, the left. While the left, because of being demonized, tries to convince you about the same thing of the right, who they see is all too eager to appease our greatest enemies outside. Both compete for the allegiance of the military-industrial complex and claim we live in the greatest nation to ever grace planet Earth. But can a nation really be great if it teeters on the brink of civil war and a new world war? Can a nation be great with a bipolar split personality within, making unified action impossible with one half denying a climate crisis and the other wanting to make it a priority? Can a nation be great while seeking to demonize their better half and all the illegal immigrants fleeing the warming tropics caused by destructive levels of CO2 coming from inside its own borders? Can a nation be great when its average citizens are responsible for twice as much greenhouse gas emissions as those from the greatest climate polluting nation on the planet, China, that it takes second place to? Can a nation be great when it spends more money on weapons for war than on programs of social uplift like education and healthcare? In my view, both sides are engaging in cult-like behavior. But force me into this bipolar cult operating system, and I will have to ignore all this, compelled to choose the lesser evil, guided by a slim hope we can stay in this failing marriage while helping to avert this dangerous course for our ship of state, threatening to crash us all into an iceberg of planetary catastrophe, of civil war, world war, and the seventh mass extinction. There's something deeply flawed within us as America falls ill. We are going backwards as the right seeks a left hemispherectomy, using lies to demonize and deny the progress of the left side, leading us with higher consciousness as blueprint for a brighter future, so they can go back in time to an idealized past that never existed. This dynamic actually reminds me of what Lyme disease feels like. The side of me seeking to progress through life is denied again and again by whatever spirochetes are cloaking their malice inside me, as if they hold a hateful spirit reflecting the equivalent on the outside, in the form of those who find great satisfaction watching their opposition fail, while wishing more ill will on them for having the audacity to progress in consciousness far beyond their backward worldview. How strange this corresponds with factions in our national body, stuck in lower consciousness, demonizing efforts to transcend their big lie. Well, they don't believe we are capable of preventing our collective doom. and would rather see it happen to fulfill their twisted prophecy than watch us grow, heal, and evolve into our highest unified self. Their condemning voice will say I'm not saved and haven't been born again. I'm not one of them, the chosen ones, American Christian patriots, someone to be thrown out of Trump rallies because I'm destined to become their enemy, eventually cast into the hellfire of their God's wrath, foreseeing through their big lie. And their condemnation is just a reflection of their own twisted psychology of being trapped in the smoke and mirrors of us versus them lower consciousness, the blessed versus the damned. They will call me a failure, unable to build a life of progress and blessings from their God tyrant, while amplifying the same hateful spirit that feels like is present within spirochetes inside my body as they campaign for tyranny to lord over our lives with Trump or some other mega authoritarian. Even though it is true, this illness has made it impossible for me to build a career and work for a family of my own. The truth they fail to acknowledge is that while my life feels stuck in the suspended animation hell of Lyme, my consciousness has progressed and surpassed theirs long ago. They can't stand the irony that who they would declare a communist or socialist atheist traitor could understand and be connected to the Christ within in a way that eludes them, the so-called Christians. I'm sick and tired of the civil war within, causing me and us to be sick and tired. With whatever time I have left, I'm going to engage in an experiment, a challenge to the universe and the Lyme disease destroying my life, and the extremists destroying America. In my effort to be born again along secular lines, forever healed of Lyme, and the condemning voice within, I seek to be connected to a reality that can transform the spirochetes and religious extremists. I will share a more progressive good news that makes the most sense to the body and mind the cosmos gave me, whose elements were forged in the fires of a universe that may have come from benevolent intent. But for whatever reason, humanity is so divided and in serious trouble. We have to somehow reach beyond what has been available to us up until now. Life could have been so much more meaningful and enriching than what it has been for me and us. So what would happen if I connect to this life now that could have been so much bigger than the life that is before it is smashed to pieces and I'm forever defeated by the civil war in my body? Rather than blind faith, I hold logical intuition, hinting at a reality beyond ours. It leads me to believe there is healing power being transmitted from a utopian advanced alien civilization whose message is likely passing through all our bodies right now. This message could contain an Encyclopedia Galactica Carl Sagan theorized about, and hold all the knowledge we would need to transform our biology and civilization forever, achieving balance and healing as a united species, living in a Type 1 spacefaring civilization. I will call these utopian advanced alien beings Civilization Z, or the Omega Civilization, because they are on track to becoming the last civilization of this cosmos, assimilating all others, not like the fascist Borg, but like the Star Trek Federation, persuading membership over time through patience and benevolence, eventually evolving over millions or billions of years to become wiser and more intelligent and more powerful than any god ever imagined in our ancient holy books. They would eventually have access to our space-time continuum with the same precision we have to go back in time and resurrect the atmosphere from Earth's past through ice core samples. If there is hope of a resurrection at the end of all existence, this is where I believe it could come, not through divine tyrants creating heaven and its opposing hell, but through the power of a transfigured intelligence that Civilization Z someday wields, transforming all opposing sides into a unified whole, connecting with the very fabric of space-time to understand the nature of reality to such a degree that they can tap into its creative power to project the past inside something like a parallel dimension, bringing life back to you, me, and every being who led to their enlightenment at the end of time. Perhaps inside a medium we might compare to a computer simulation like the holodeck from Star Trek. Cosmic intelligence of this scale is what I believe Christ, Buddha, and every spiritual warrior of our past came to work towards. And if humanity is to ever connect to a galactic intelligence at the scale of above God's, that could be beaming through our bodies at this very moment across something like a cosmic internet, we will need to set aside our differences to work for the good of the species in finding it, which is only possible if we unite towards a type 1 global civilization. I want to believe this illness I have is not a curse, but something to be utilized as my greatest gift to transform Americans under the spell of MAGA spirochetes' lower consciousness into global community consciousness through Martin Luther King's Dream Reborn, matching the technological and progressive evolution of our highest self. Even though I haven't yet figured out how, I believe in the power of possibility and love, that the spirochetes can be transformed so that we can heal and I can find my power to team up with these transformed Americans and embody the Great Seal's message out of many, one, to build the dream of world spirit in temples of light and Star Trek fellowship, serving as the connective means to unify religions, nations, and diverse peoples towards the global mind of our greatest potential, to pass the great filter as a type 1 spacefaring planetary civilization of world citizens living in something like the United States of Earth or the United Federation of Nations, devoting energies not to war, but to science and expansion of knowledge, dedicated to explore rather than wage the next world war, employing artificial intelligence in the search for a message from a utopian alien species who's on track to becoming Civilization Z, whose healing power could be beaming through you and me this very instant, just waiting for us to discover and decode its life-transforming signal. Unfortunately, I haven't yet figured out how to turn the corner and work for all this. I'm feeling the negative frequency of what's happening to us in the world, which only intensifies each year we enter without a resolution. I have always had nightmares of atomic warfare my entire life, wondering about the likelihood a nuclear blast could be my fate. And this fear is a reflection of our collective fear. Just the other day, I went to see the new movie ISS with my friend. Its story is about Russians and Americans on the International Space Station during the Third World War, which lays waste to both their nations below, turning the beautiful surface of Earth into a smoldering ruin of hell. This event triggers a domino effect spiral of paranoia and hate between the Russians and American astronauts, overriding their more enlightened scientific worldview, shaped by the spiritual vision of the overview effect, seeing the Earth below as a single organism. They eventually become a microcosm of the horror that destroyed the macro world, going mad while turning on each other for mutually assured destruction. The only survivors are an American astronaut and Russian cosmonaut who decide to set aside their fears in order to trust each other and work together. Even if I don't die in the fires of nuclear war or succumb to the violence of the culture war in us, it still feels like I'm coming to the end of my Lyme battle, the civil war in my immune system. Without a breakthrough, I don't know how much longer I have. Maybe a year, 2, or even less. So if I can't find the love, connection, creativity, and abundant life in this existence I've always sought through living, will I find it in dying? Definitely not when I'm really gone, in either our collective funeral of a nuclear war or my personal funeral after being destroyed by Lyme disease. So what if I could find what I'm looking for by embracing a living memorial? In a regular memorial, I'm already gone, and the negative frequency I feel like I'm trapped inside gets the upper hand, whether it comes in the form of Lyme civil war destroying my body, nuclear war, or as future casualty of a new American civil war. Like in the film Tomorrowland, the negative frequency feeds the narrative the whole world is doomed to play out through a self-destruct story. But in a living memorial, I escape the negative frequency connecting to a positive one. And I don't have to wait until I'm gone for those I love to find out how much they mean to me. And there's still a chance to connect with them in a new, born-again, abundant life. But on my terms, not the religious fanatics. And in this living memorial, it's possible Lyme disease wasn't a curse, proving the fanatics correct, serving a future casualty in the negative hell frequency storyline, promoting our inescapable doom leading to self-destruction in Armageddon. It's possible Lyme was a blessing in disguise, to be utilized for inspiring the best within us, to win the race for our future. In my living memorial, I'd want to reconnect with all those I love, to tell them in person how much they all mean to me, while apologizing for the antisocial nature of this illness, making me harder to love, while destroying the best within me. And for all those I've been out of touch with for so long, I'd want to find out if they are okay being in my living memorial to reconnect. And if not, asking how I could make amends to them and win a place back in their heart. And that's where the good part comes in, reconnecting to make plans for turning things around. I want to share the good news about Civilization Z being a reasonable possibility of our cosmic fate. And that at the ultimate level of reality, we are all connected and basically the same being on the inside, only deceived by this life, its architects, and the captains of fear, making us think we are separate and not the same. Perhaps this is what I need to reconnect to the love of life this illness has been denying me for so long, to actually find healing here and now, and with a renewed and restored spirit made whole. Maybe then I could get my power back to take advantage of whatever time I have left, to help awake humanity, to see the greatest enemy we all face isn't each other, but a climate catastrophe, which, like my Lyme, we must turn into a blessing, not our greatest curse. Only then can we be overcome by a beautiful dream more powerful than the hellish nightmare, ready to unfold around us, by joining forces to occupy and lay claim to temples of light in every nation, as alternative sanctuary of our future, to the churches and mosques of religious extremists, claiming they have the one and only truth, splintering rather than uniting our humanity, to show we have so much more in common than the differences threatening our self-destruction. As Lyme brings me closer to my end, I can see life could have been so much more meaningful and enriching than it was. What if I wasn't raised in a fundamentalist sect of Christianity, having to sit through doomsday sermon after doomsday sermon as a kid, going to a church school telling us we were in the end times, and the battle of the Antichrist is our fate, leading to this intolerable place we find ourselves in today, with Trump threatening to return to the White House in a revenge term, to incite civil war, while empowering millions of evangelical extremists across America who believe he was sent by God to lead us in the battle of Armageddon, as the world polarizes with all this destructive force and animosity needed to push us all over the brink. What if I grew up in a nation where I didn't feel like an alien, that I actually belonged here in a country and in a world with a future, being raised in a Star Trek school and Star Trek fellowship, connecting me to a new kind of optimism for the future, part of a new tribe that makes the most sense, opening up to ideas I only experienced watching Star Trek. And what if I grew up in a nation with a landscape not littered in churches and MAGA churches, but with temples of light fellowship, raising us to an avatar consciousness, extending from sea to shining sea? Because all this doesn't yet exist in the form I dream about, and I don't see anyone else trying to build anything like it, what if I could devote whatever is left of my broken life to its creation, as a living prayer expressed what I wish we always had, to make me, our nation, and world whole, one body, one soul? This is the power of possibility keeping me hopeful, ready to leave this hell frequency of my Lyme nightmare behind once and forever, to lay claim to the infinite love and joy waiting for me and all of us. And then nothing else will matter. I won't even care anymore about my nearly 30 years sad story, because of an illness that has made me half a person. barely able to function, create, and get anything significant done. There comes a time when you just have to ignore the condemning voice inside your head, reflecting those outside that say your attempt to escape the nightmare Shawshank-like prison of infighting, self-destruction, and despair will fail, and your fate is destined to serve their horrifying story about our unavoidable collective doom. And I won't even care anymore about having 29 years of my life being eaten up by Lyme disease punishment from what they say was sent from their God. Because then it will become fertilizer for the rest of my journey, where a redemption lotus of beauty can finally bloom out of what feels like a meaningless, broken life. And I will find my power to escape this prison for the pristine blue beaches of a new life of endless possibilities, transforming fanatic consciousness to the truth of this existence. We live in a compassionate universe with Civilization Z our fate. As long as I'm still alive, I will never give up to turn what feels like an unfolding nightmare into a beautiful dream.